All right, so yeah, that's good though. Might bring me down a notch because yesterday someone said I was a little intense. I'm like, well, yeah, let's get it on. Let's get going. All right, so yesterday we talked about a couple of things, right? We talked about just we talked about communication. We talked about how to persuade. Just as a reminder, I'm going to put it up there because we're going to work on this because I'm seeing a few of you who weren't in here yesterday, but just that little study done by UCLA, gosh, probably 30, 40 years ago. It's been a long time. There's other studies that have happened, of course, but just the way in which we communicate, that this is how we're heard or seen or understood. And just a good reminder that when you're trying to persuade someone, and then we talked about just a little bit about that persuasion, even though the way versus I'll put it up here because I didn't write this part up. Manipulation, of course, is what?
Intent.
All right, your intentions, right? So just, pay attention to that. And then those three ways in which we persuade someone. What's the first one? Or they're not particular order,
Voice.
right? So how we use our voice, right? How we use our speech. Okay, what else?
Image.
Right, the image that we have, right? The way in which we look, the way in which we show up, and then what else? Right, and then just our body language. And you think about that, that really is the way in which the world is persuaded. And the only difference between these two, right, is the intention that we have, and we want to use persuasion and the way in which we do that. And as you look at that part, then we talked a little bit about just this if we have a belief, and this is a tabletop, and then each one of these are a leg on the table. And as you start looking at those legs to that table, just remember everyone has different beliefs, and whatever those beliefs are, it doesn't matter whether it's. Here's a good example. There'll be people in this room. Yesterday was the weirdest thing. Like I was doing I did the coaching call, and someone said, like I somehow endorsed Donald Trump, and I'm thinking, I said, I don't give a crap who's the president. It's irrelevant. I'm thinking, like, what planet did I say something on that call that made I was talking about the fact that he printed money. People forget that Donald Trump printed money, and the fact is that we're now paying the price. And I asked people, would you have rather had the money printed or not? If you wouldn't have had it printed, then you would have had complete destruction in the country over the COVID. You would have. Major businesses would have. We may have been one of those businesses that went out. It sparked the entire real estate community and the real estate market on fire. Not necessarily a bad thing, but at some point you have to get in alignment with the fact that you printed all of this money, which is what all of the inflation is all about. But somehow, I don't know, like it was the funniest comment. I like 99% of what you said. Okay, all right.
Said lunch was a waste of time, something to that.
That sounds like the lunch was a waste of time.
Well, I said that too. I said lots of things. I'm not sure which Trump comment it was but I don't care who's the president. I mean, I just put that out there. And my echoing is, I never will use this company as a platform politically, nor will I use it as a platform for a cause. And people go, well, what is your cause? My cause is love one another, be kind, drip with integrity, deplore and advocate everything against violence, treat everybody with respect and love. And that is the platform we will live from. People say, well, yeah, but you should take a stronger stand. No, I will not take a stand on anything. I don't care if it's gay pride, black lives, white lives, what lives, I will take no stand. And that's because that is not we are a sales organization, not a political platform, which people are turning their corporations into, and I will not be that. So if I offend any of you from that standpoint, forgive me. But love one another. That would be my statement. Okay. Someone else raised their hand on something. No, Amy, you didn't. I thought someone else. Was it Jason? Jason, have anything to say?
I don't have anything to say.
All right. So forgive me if that's my stance, but my stance is no stance. And not that I don't have opinions. I think anyone would know me. I have an opinion, just for the record, I have opinions. But I also believe that it's like, I remember I've had a lot of people say, well, hey, can I come in and tell you all about the investments? And I said, no, we're not an investment club. You want to go to an investment club? Go to an investment club. We are a sales organization that sells real estate. And I have to tell you where I became so fierce on that, just as a side note, was years ago, in between when I had sold Realty Executives and I had not yet even started probably the idea of Everest. is that there were a lot of agents because the market was making some major shifts during that time. And what ended up happening was the distraction of multi-level marketing. Well, you know what, just for the record, what do you think the distraction is right now, by the way? What do you think?
Bitcoin?
What did you say?
Bitcoin?
Yes, I was gonna say crypto. Yeah, crypto.
Crypto.
Crypto's the new, oh, shiny new object, but just remind you, we are a sales organization. So thank you for being here and wanting to sell. And if you want to go buy crypto, knock yourself out. I just won't teach it, speak about it, other than, hey, great, go buy some, then knock yourself out if you have some extra cash. But beyond that, that's not what we're going to do here. And sometimes people think that we should open this organization up to like 1,800 different ideas. And the one thing I've realized over this last decade, when I saw the destruction of an organization because they became so unfocused on what they're doing, that we just won't allow that to happen. So at least if I'm at the helm, if that's okay, Allison, is that okay? All right, just checking. I want to make sure Jason's okay with it too.
Perfectly fine. Thanks for asking.
He didn't raise his hand, but he-
That's right, but he has lots to say. All right. Okay, so we talked yesterday about this belief thing. So I just want you to think about that. What I was going to start to say and why I got on this was, you meet people who believe in God, you meet people who don't believe in God, right? Or you have people who believe that they don't know what's beyond. In fact, I was sitting at the dinner table with my father-in-law, and his exact words were, I think there's something in the afterlife. I'm not quite sure still what it is. Oh, okay. Well, that's his belief. Now, if I wanted to have a conversation, I would sit there and say, hey, so tell me, just this, I just want to just give everyday life to this. If that's what you believe, well, hey, can you share with me what are the reasons why you believe that? So these legs that we talk about, these supporting reasons to your belief are really the reasons as to why you believe what you believe. Because you have to justify it. These are another word we can put up here is you have to justify the belief. Well, I don't believe in this because, or it's maybe not, well, put another word up here, right? It's the because. And so you gotta get down into that. And the reason why these words, where I still want to expand on this, and I mention this oftentimes so quickly that I don't often spend probably enough time on it, but I just want to remind you that that's the reason why we ask questions like, what's most important, right? Or other ones, help me understand, share with me, or share a little bit more about that with me. Tell me more. And is there anything else? Now people think, well, you must have gone to some book and these are the 5 questions someone had written down. No, this just comes from my own personal experiences. You may have other things that you want to ask, but I've just found that these ways in which I get to these questions are the ways in which, as I ask these questions, I get down to what are the reasons why they believe what they believe. Now, from a sales standpoint, right, when we're trying to convey a different, when we want to understand something, what I'm going to challenge you is to not use the word why, because why is combative. And so I was with an agent just a few, well, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days ago, whenever it was. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to list with an agent. First words out of their mouth were what? What do you think they were? Why not? Well, you may say, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, it's a big deal because why always creates resistance. And it makes it to where they have to justify their position. And so the challenge is that when you're asking the word, well, hey, why? You then are challenging their reasons. And I'm here to say that, look, if you're going to do that, you're going to create resistance. You're going to get them to justify. You're going to get them to defend themselves. And all of a sudden, when you start going into that space, then it becomes almost, it can oftentimes even get contentious. Someone says, I'm Republican. Democrat says, why? Well, now the Republican, well, I'll tell you why. Or the Republican says to the Democrat, well, why are you Democrat? And they have to defend. Well, let me tell you why. And the point is that all of a sudden resistance, justification, defensiveness, all this stuff starts to unfold. When you do that, you say, come on, George, is it that deep of a conversation? Yes, it really is, especially when you're calling, I don't care whether it's just listed, just sold, or they say they got a friend in the business, or they think that the price should be higher, or they want to stay as a for sale by owner, or they're as expired listing, their last agent didn't do their job. I mean, you start asking why and why. So just get in the habit of using these words, which are how, what, and when. All right, get in the habit. Hey, so what's important? How is it important to you? You know, when did you come to those conclusions? When did you come to understand that? And so the other words you often hear me write around these are, some type of curiosity. Gosh, is that right? Something like that. Is that curiosity? I don't know if I've ever spelled that on a dry erase board. All right, curiosity. I'm curious, right? Hey, I'm curious. And the other one is, hey, what is the other one I always say? I'm confused. Hey, I'm confused. Can you share with me what's important about being a Republican, being a Democrat, as we got our people out there on the corner this morning, all right? Doing their thing, whatever they are. All right. My point is that real estate is all about just having a conversation. And sometimes we get so concerned about a script that we forget that script, all it is to open you up to some level of a conversation. So open up the conversation of how, what, when, what's most important, how's that important? When did you come to that conclusion? When did that become important to you? And all of a sudden you start to open up a real conversation. And so that's why years ago I started to realize that this one word became a critical component to all of my prospecting, and that is empathy. And the funny thing is I keep hearing all these people out there speaking and coaching, and I get a kick out of the fact that I feel like all they've done is they're stealing my material. That's fine. They can steal. I should take it as a compliment. But I've even got Tom Ferry quoting me. I'm like, my gosh, you've never in your lifetime said that. But that's because he follows my stuff and looks at it. My point to you is empathy. If I were you, I feel the same way too. The problem with that is that I say that, and my joke always, especially friend Lee, appreciate this, Stephanie Barnes in the room, you can say that really sarcastically, or you can say it really sincerely. But either way, what people want to know is that you understand them. So just think about your prospecting right now. Now, the story I've always been told is I'm driving down 13th East and Jennifer is mad at me. I don't know. We've been married nearly 30 years, as I was talking about yesterday. And she was mad at me for something, I don't know, 20 years ago. And I knew as I was looking out the window and she was driving and she was going off on something. I don't know what she was talking about. I don't remember what it was about. But I still will never forget going, I know how to solve this. I mean, maybe you've heard this story before, but some of you haven't. I'm like, I know how to solve this. I can solve it right now. I'm like, but I'm not. I refuse. I'm mad. But I just said, you know what? Okay, I'm done with this. And I just said, sweetheart, if I were you, I'd feel the same way too. And I remember her going, see, that's what I was talking about. That's what I just wanted you to hear me. Like in my mind, I'm kind of rolling my eyes in my own head, but not physically, but I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, but you may say, well, that's kind of rude. And anyway, it all got solved and now we have a good laugh about this. But I remember, I don't know, it could have been 2 or 3 weeks later and she was mad at me again, Danny, shocking. But and she was bothered about something else. And I remember I said it and she had gone to either some class or I talked about it. And I remember she said, don't use that voodoo on me. That doesn't work anymore. And because she was mad. I didn't remember what she was mad about. It's 20 years ago. Who knows? But my point is that look, if I were you, I'd feel the same way too. And you'll say, well, where would you use that? Well, you use it when they're putting up, this is the key here, is that when they're putting up the word, I got the word up here, resistance, but it's when there's resistance. Whenever there's resistance, come to some middle ground. Right? It doesn't matter. I mean, look, you want to change your whole family party situation, right? And people, voicing their opinions politically. And, I feel I'm pretty moderate as a generalization. And I got a sister who is way over in the left of land of life. And if I don't use this with her, I will be at every party and it will be hell on earth. If I don't say, you know, Wendy, I can see your point. If I were you, I'd feel that same way too. And she's like, yeah, I totally can see where you're coming from. I appreciate you listening to me. I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is the dumbest idea, but whatever. I mean, that's what I'm thinking inside myself. Yeah, I know that sounds horrible. You might say that sounds
That's
horrible,
how you get through it.
but I got through it. And she still loves me. And we have a great relationship. And I love my sister. I just don't like some of her ideas. And remember, this goes back to Kelly. This is the key to this, but let me just, well, go ahead.
So that's manipulation.
Can be. I know. I think about that. I know. I think I'm like, I don't, but the thing is, you know what? I'm committed to no contention. I'm not committed to believing what she has to believe. That's what I'm committed to. So this is to my point. This woman, you'll like this. And that goes right in alignment. And that is this. Can, or let's just say, can I accept you and not agree with you? And that key point I've written on this dry erase board with many people, and one in my office, I've written that down many times, and I have had people turn into tears, and I'm like, whoa, what's wrong? And I'll never forget, there's an agent in another company. They're not here, but we're incredibly close friends still. They've never joined our company, but I wrote that down. I accept you even though I don't agree with you. If I were, this is the key point here, Kelly. If I were who? You. Well, no, I don't believe what you believe. I don't think the path that you're going down, whatever it might be, if it's my sister, right? But if I were you, well, I'd feel the same way too. If I was you, well, not you, but if I were you, I guess that's how I would feel. And you say, well, that seems so simple. It does, but what it does do is it drops all the resistance. And when I say the lady was turned into tears, is because she had a son going down a weird path for her, and she realized that she had not accepted. Now, you could put another word up here, by the way. I can love you, even though I don't agree with you. And that part, Kelly, is the thing that changes everything. So here's the deal. Do I agree with my sister? Like, if she really asked me, do you believe what I believe? And if she really cornered me, I'd be like, no, but I love you. And I always will, no matter what you believe. I will accept you no matter what you do. I will love you unconditionally. I will accept you with no condition. And most people always have conditions on, oh, well, you know, they did this, so I don't like them anymore. Well, I would challenge you that anyone in this room and anyone listening on Zoom, stop putting conditions to your acceptance and your love. There should be none. But the problem is that you're watching families divide themselves over political craziness. You're watching people get so messed up in their lives because they think, if I don't agree with you, then I have to hate you. And that is really where there's a mess up in this country right now at a mega level. John?
It goes back to what you say. It's our
They're garbage.
intention as to whether it's persuasion or manipulation. You can't persuade someone if you're combative.
Yeah.
And so the second you agree with them verbally, whether you really do or not, they can't argue with you.
Right. Well, again, I'm saying, remember, that's the key word, because I realized back in the day, I'm like, I have to have truthness. It has to be, well, if I were you, Kelly, well, then I would do the same thing. If so, so let's now give real life, another real life, like let's apply it to real estate, right? If there's a for sale by owner, they say, I'm going to sell on my own. Do you think a for sale owner should sell on their own? As a jet, like 9 out of 10, 99 out of 100 times, should they be selling on their own?
For the betterment of them, no,
Well, then why else would they?
because they think that's better.
Correct. But do you think that's the point is, no, do you think it's better? Right. So the thing is that it's not necessarily that I agree with them, but the thing that people need to lower all resistance is they have to what? Feel what? Accepted, loved, appreciated, accepted. Maybe another word we could put up here is they have to feel that they were heard. Remember Jennifer, she goes, see, now you're listening. I was listening before. I completely disagree with what you're saying, but that's all they're right. But the thing is that what brought it all down a notch was I accept you, even though if I were you, sir, I'd feel the same way too. If I would home sell, he says, I'm going to sell my own. I hate agents. You hate agents. You're going to sell on your own. if I were you, I just might do the same thing too. If I were you, I'd feel the same way. If I were you, I might do the same thing. If I were you, but I'm not you. But they need to know that I'm trying to put myself, and what is empathy? It's not compassion. Although compassion is so important, a principle, right? A principle of love. Empathy is I'm going to try to do what?
Understand.
Yeah, feel what you feel, experience what you experience to the best of my degree. Don't be that moron in life who goes, I know exactly what you're going through. No, you don't. No, you do not know what I've gone through. And I don't proceed to know that I know what you've gone through. No one knows what any one of us have gone through. We can try to understand. We can try to feel what you feel. We can try to experience what you experience, but we never ultimately do. Do not be that person who says, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're feeling. You do? Now there's real extremes, right? When someone has a personal loss or something incredibly tragic, it's obvious you don't know what they experience, and you say that. But I would argue that that is in every scenario. Think of a young child or a teenager, and you say, I know what you're going through. Do you really? Did you experience life in today's world with all the craziness that when you were bullied, that you just beat up the other kid or they beat you up and it was done? It goes on and on and on now. Social media, texting, private conversations, DMs, pictures on from Snapchat to you name it. It goes, do you really know? I know you don't know. So to say you think you know is ridiculous. Now you can say, boy, if I were you, I'd feel the same way too. I can't even imagine what you're going through. Then all of a sudden we get to a deeper level of connection and a deeper level of acceptance and a deeper level of love. And if love is what unites us, then you better make sure people know that you love them and that you care for them. John?
So this weekend, I had 3 boys in my house of 13, 10, and 7 years old. And boys are boys. Good.
Right?
So I found the quickest way to get them settled down after a fight, after one of them was really upset because they got hurt, is I look at them and say, I understand you're probably really mad or frustrated. You have every right. You may even want to tear the other one's head off. And just because I would say that, they feel accepted.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, boy, I'd feel the same way too, right?
Yeah. If I tried to figure out who was right and who was wrong, it'd take forever.
Yeah.
All you got to do is acknowledge feeling.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I say that have to happen in a presentation. And I would just, and people will think like, oh, well, it seems so simple, but I just want to remind you with what you're even saying, is that when people feel comfortable, to remind you, they allow you to do one thing. They allow you to what? Lead them. Lead. Politics are such an easy thing to look at, right? Some people are completely comfortable. If you're Nancy Pelosi, right, you're sitting there going, our president has done more in his first 2 years than any president in US history. Now, some of you will laugh at that. But what's so funny is she deeply believes that. She believes it, good or bad, she believes it. And some other people may even in this room believe that. That's fine. My point is that, you know, I still remember when Trump became president, how petrified I was. I was scared. Turned out reasonably okay, I think. People say, oh, if I say that, people are like, oh my God, you're taking a stand. I think it turned. My bottom line is I just would like to make sure no one's new. That's probably, if we can avoid that in any part of the world, that seems to be like we got at least a chance in moving through life. And so far, we're doing okay with either of those presidents. And my point to you, and then you have people like, he is not my president. Like the nonsense of that. I mean, if you're that, then we can talk about that too. But you know, the point is when he was the president, people say he's not my what? Well, because they were so what? Uncomfortable. Good or bad. It's not, again, it's so easy to see this in the world. So now bring it down to your transaction. How do you help people feel comfortable?
I love that no matter how this world evolves, that principle never changes.
No. No, it doesn't. So I talk about a lot, but this is the nut. If there's anything you could err on in your commitment to being a great salesperson, err on the side of rapport and comfort. Err on the side of getting connected. And what is the number one building block? Now let's go to this. The number one building block of all rapport is what? I'm putting it above the thing, right? Is what? It's above what? No, it's the number one building block to creating all rapport is what? Yeah, it's asking questions. Helping people feel accepted, being sure they feel loved, not forcing and pushing down on things. When people know that you're not doing that and that you have their best interest in mind, then all of a sudden they start to feel comfortable and they say things like, Kelly, what do we do next? Where should we sign? What should we do? What do you think we should do? What's next? Because that's what happens when people feel comfortable. They're looking, when they're comfortable, they're looking for someone to lead them. They're looking for it when they're comfortable. So don't underestimate the power of questions, recognizing that how you ask these questions, how you show empathy, how you bring love or acceptance into the room or into the environment, wherever you are. I mean, I recently listened to a thing, we got to wrap up here, but I recently listened to a thing by Wayne Dyer, and he said there are people who walk around in life looking to be offended. Why? Why such a commitment? Do you think about this to contention? Commitment to being, if they can find out where they were wronged, or people were hurt, or people they gotta raise the intensity level of anger and all of those things. You think, wow, what's the there's a lot, hey, there's a lot of people committed to that way of life. And yet what we all know, right? Where we talk about, let's just talk globally, where we see such division across the world, so much of it is because there lacks so much acceptance and love. And the thing is that's what ultimately unites us. And even though no one wants to talk about that in business, in the end of the day, people are going to work with you because they feel accepted, they feel heard, and these are all cloaks for the standpoint that they feel loved. And when they feel loved, they feel comfortable. And when they're comfortable, they let you lead them. And the thing is, somehow we forget that. We get so fixated on a script. We get so fixated. Yeah, great. Someone has a belief and we know that, hey, it's not they shouldn't sell on their own, or they're an expired and they have the room to actually get their price down, but they've said, we're going to wait till prices go up. Boy, you better figure out that that's probably not the right belief right now, because we don't know when those prices are going to come back. It could be years from now. So you better figure out how to help them, and you figure out how to help them so that you can figure out the reasons. And if their reasons are justifiable, from a place of right intention and make sense, well, then you're going to help them knock these reasons out so that their beliefs change, so that they get in alignment. And you see that over and over again. And I just want to impress on you that, as complicated maybe at times that seems, I would tell you first and foremost, it comes down to a focus. And the focus I have come down to, at least in my life, is, I was just talking to Amy about this yesterday. I want people to feel loved. I was talking about a grandmother I had. She was 94 years old when she passed away. She had stark blue eyes. I mean, bluer than mine. And she would get like this close to my face, even into my 20s. And she would tell me how much she loved me. And I always wanted to be able to be her, that no matter who I looked at, they could feel my love, my appreciation, and my acceptance. That's what's driven my career. It is what has driven my sales. It is what people sign their contracts to, is what they feel when they're in your presence. Remember that. It's what they feel when they're in your presence. It's not your script. It's not your dialogue. It's part of it, but it's not ultimately what they feel. You may use those words to help them feel comfortable. And that's why I changed my closing techniques to, how do you feel about what I've shared with you? How do you feel about my company? How do you feel about me as your agent? How do you feel about getting started? I changed it all because all I cared about was how they felt. And once I realized it was about how they felt, and if they felt comfortable, well, then they were going to allow me to lead them through some really difficult moments. And I take that as a tremendous stewardship and responsibility that I often talk about for years, that we have a stewardship in this company. We have a stewardship to help people, to protect them, to to respect them, to give them and to help them get what they want. That's your job as a salesperson. Help them get what they want. But if you help them get what they want and you have to shift some beliefs because they're off the mark, well, then that's part of your job, is to help them see clearly the pathway to getting what they want. Make sense?
Makes sense.
I know it's a lot. The thing is that what I really want to do, and is tomorrow when do we do the book? Is it Thursdays you're doing the book? And what was happening tomorrow? What
Tomorrow's just Wednesday. So
tomorrow's just Wednesday,
Wednesday, we're doing mornings and base camp.
right? But morning ascent, we're
We're
doing.
on.
Okay, so what I like to do is we'll do our affirmations, we'll come back and maybe if you can, I don't know if we can, and maybe someone will erase it, but leave that up there if we can.
We can leave it.
And let's just come back tomorrow. And what we'll do is we're gonna get in a circle and let's just start playing around with, just be thinking about everything that's stopping you, whether it's through prospecting, through presentations, whether it's buyers or sellers. And let's just banter in the sense of role plays back and forth of how do you shift that process. So come, record it, take out your phone, record it. And let's get into some depth here of how we maneuver through difficult situations. Come up with whatever you prospect today, man. Remind yourself of what those objections were and let's work through those. But just don't forget that if you can come down to this place of a desire to love and accept people, I'm telling you, it will come together. I'm just one last thought. It was in this lobby right here where someone came up to me. They're in this company still, and they came, and they're not in this room. They said, I know some of you've heard this, some of you haven't. And they said, hey, can I ask you a question? I said, sure, ask me. What's up? You really love people, don't you? Oh, yeah. And then the guy responded, he goes, I don't. That's why it's such a struggle for me in this business. This agent has stayed in the most prolific times in real estate. Let's just think about what's happened over these last 2 or 3 years. Their income hasn't literally changed one iota. And the problem, the reason it doesn't change is because there's such a grind to do this business, a grind to make it happen. What if today, all you said to yourself is, I am going to help people feel loved, accepted, and comfortable? Would they allow you to lead them? What if your prospecting focus, I'm going to love people, accept people, help them feel comfortable today? That will be my entire focus point with my prospecting. And I'm telling you, your prospecting will be very different today, because it won't be about you. It won't be, oh gosh, should I say it right? No, did they feel loved, accepted? Did they feel comfortable? And if you can do that, you'll have more contracts signed than you could ever even think to. And you will have no problems economically. But when you get self-focused about what you think, what you want, what you must have, and pushing and driving, I'm gonna make these calls. I have to. No, you don't have. Remember, you don't have to prospect. You get to help people. You get to love people. You get to accept people. You get to give to people. And again, if you were to do that today, like would your prospecting, would your presentations, you walk in, I'm just going to make sure they feel loved, accepted, and comfortable. Oh, if I do that, guess what? Well, then they let me lead them. That sure becomes amazing. That's why I've always liked, when that shift happened for me in real estate, prospecting became so fun and easy. No resistance, no fight, no force. It's who do I get to help today? Who's going to be the one that shows up? Because you don't need 10 people, Aubrey, that show up and buy a home. Although that would be cool. You need one a day, and you will be very rich from this business. Okay.